working from the Stories Manual. It is his first project. However, variations on a theme, not reading the whole story, just weaving a story into his speech. Please welcome Georgia Spearstuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, is it hard today to find inspiration? Where can we find inspiration?
Google.
Inner peace. That's one way. But I'll tell you, I think there's three great ways you can find inspiration. One thing is in listening to other people, quotes that you may get from them. Another way is going to the movies. And the third one that I think is the most important is just telling your story. When you hear a good story, I think it changes you. Can you remember as a little kid being excited about going to the movies? Can you smell the popcorn? You run into the door, right? You're getting excited about the movie. I want to say to you guys that movies aren't just for fun, and they're not just entertainment. I think you can derive inspiration from them. And I will say, I will argue tonight that there's no avenue greater than the story, than convincing someone of what you want, of your point, putting it across. Because last week, I was in front of contractors as an engineer, and I tell you, I didn't know any of them. But after I got together with them and told them a story, they warmed up to me, and they were able to come ask me tough questions that they may not have asked. I'm going to try to act out a story tonight, and I'd like to do it without my notes. I've practiced it. But I'll first go over, I'm leading up to that, that's the finale. So I'll start with physical things that are inspirational. I was at the Salvador Dali Museum today, last weekend. I don't know if, has anybody been there? Wow, that's great. Salvador Dali was a pretty great guy, right? Pretty good artist. I'd love to be counted in those things. I won't be, but it would be great. He found inspiration for one of his most famous paintings. As everyone knows this painting, right? The melted clock.
Persistence of time.
He was sitting out on his porch one day. It was very hot. And the cheese started melting on the table. He took that into that great work. It's amazing, too, the detail that he could put with a little stroke of his paint. Quotes. Now we'll talk about quotes. I bet we can think of a lot of quotes, but very few inspire you, right? I picked out maybe 2 or 3. I like the one that just says, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with that one small calculus." Tonight we have Daryl here taking that first step into Toastmasters. And I'll say that that's the toughest step of them all. Wouldn't you all agree? All right, I'm going to get to the meat of the story here. I'm going to act out one of my favorite movies that has a good story in it, has a good plot. It is a children's story. I don't know how many of you have children. We're all young here. Everyone's young, including me. But I do have kids. I'm going to talk to you about Kung Fu Panda. Anybody heard of that movie?
Yes.
Jack Black. What I like about this movie is it's not only telling you a story, it's not only funny, it's inspirational. And it's these type of stories that leave an impression in you. Because if you think your kids are going to remember all those facts you're giving, sadly mistaken. But you tell them a story, and they'll remember that their whole life. So as a Toastmaster, we're all learning how to tell stories. And I call you to action. Come out into the community and use those stories. Don't just sit back here and behind the lectern. Come out like Greg Miller does in front, but do it in front of the community. I challenge you to do that. I did that last week. You would not believe how good I felt afterwards. All right, I'm going to try to act out this movie to start. Back in the times of ancient China, legend has it that a man had an act of valor that was so legendary, it was truly legendary. There was no one greater at Kung Fu in all the land than he. In fact, one could say that his act of bravery was so awesome that people were blinded by his awesomeness. Oh, my eyes! He's so awesome! That's how it starts the movie. And if you recall the movie, we have Sensei and Oogway. Oogway is the great Kung Fu leader. He's a turtle. And he's talking to Sensei about getting Panda to become the great Kung Fu warrior, dragon warrior. And he says, Master Shifu is like, I can't, he's a panda, he's big, how can I get him? And he says, now, the panda, you cannot change him. Think of a seed, think of a peach seed. You may wish for an apple, or you may wish for a pear tree, but it will always be a peach tree. And I think what he's saying then is take what he has and inspire him. And he goes on to say, if you take this guy and you believe in him and you mold him, then he can become the great dragon warrior. And I'll say to you tonight that if you take your stories into the crowd and use your Toastmasters, someone may pass you on the street and go, there goes that Toastmaster. That's awesome. Thank you.